Somewhere between a fever dream and a forgotten sci-fi film lurks the truth. Our oceans are teeming with bizarre life. Forget friendly dolphins and graceful whales. We're plunging into the abyss to unearth the real residents. Creatures so strange, so alien, they make you question what else is out there. Prepare for a visual onslaught of nature's weirdest and most wonderful creations. We're counting down the 20 most mind-blowing sea creatures recently pulled from the depths. Guaranteed to elicit a gasp, a shudder, and maybe even a "what is that?" Number 20. Pink See-Through Fantasia. With such a pretty-sounding name, what could possibly be in the least bit creepy about this animal? Well, this creature actually has an official name that translates to headless chicken monster, and it kind of looks like you might imagine it would now, doesn't it? This animal is actually a sort of deep-sea cucumber, an invertebrate marine animal, which is part of the echinoderm family of sea dwellers that also includes starfish and sea urchins. They may look a bit on the scary side, but these things are not exactly massive, nor are they any kind of threat to you. In fact, they mostly like to eat algae and flap about in the deepest of seas using their funny little fins. And in actuality, humans pose more of a risk to the lowly old sea cucumber, as these things have been used in folk medicine and also prized as delicacies in many parts of the world. This new headless chicken is kind of probably going to regret getting itself filmed looking all like a tasty sea creature and getting named as a kind of chicken, but that isn't going to end well for this little animal in the end. Number 19. The Dumbo Octopus. These octopuses live at the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean, the deepest of any known octopus species. In fact, 13,100 feet, meaning that these animals are adapted to live in very cold water without any sunlight at all. The rare Dumbo octopus also has some unusual behaviors to help them find a mate and successfully reproduce when the options are limited and there are very few of the species. It's necessary to get creative. You see, now, it is a tiny bit icky, but you can handle it. The female Dumbo octopus basically carries a variety of eggs around in different stages of development. So whenever they meet a male, they like to stock up on sperm. You just never know when you might find another eligible bachelor a mile or more down in the dark. So they have the unique ability to store this sperm for long periods of time after mating. This means that whenever they have optimum conditions for making babies, the female Dumbo octopus can employ the stored sperm with the most suitably developed eggs, and thus they ensure the best chance for successful reproduction. It's kind of empowering, really. Number 18. The black-belly ninja lantern shark. If it sounds like this species of shark was named by an 8-year-old, well, it's basically because it was. Actually, 2 8-year-olds were responsible for the ninja lantern shark's distinct moniker. The scientist who discovered the species, Vicky Vasquez, had tasked her little cousins with coming up with a name. Well, it could have turned out to be Fluffy Rainbow Unicorn Princess or Spider-Man Chicken Nugget. So a ninja lantern shark doesn't seem half bad. It probably makes the shark feel way cooler than it used to. Anyway, these sharks live in the Pacific coastal waters of Central America, from Nicaragua to Panama to Costa Rica, and growing to only about 1.6 feet in length. These sharks are black all over and totally sleek looking. They also have a bioluminescence, like many other species of deepwater fish. Their black coloring and general glowing appearance reminded the kids that named them of a super ninja. And they have a more official and much more boring name in scientific circles. They are known as Epmopterus benchley, which was chosen after the author of the book Jaws, Peter Benchley. That's the book that scared the pants off a generation of beachgoers. See, scientists aren't all about the flashy names like Ninja Lantern Shark, folks. Now it's time for the sweet topic. The depths of the oceans are a whole different world of creatures and critters, fundamentally unlike anything else you've ever seen. Would you just look at this utter monstrosity? We tend to only think that because of our preconceptions of what animals are supposed to look like based on land animals. But this one here is what underwater creatures can look like, and it's kind of weird. Number 17. The vampire squid. The vampire squid is, despite its name, apparently neither a squid nor an octopus. Presumably, it's not even actually a vampire, but we should probably just make sure. The vampire squid is a kind of small cephalopod. They live in tropical and temperate waters around the world at a depth of between 2,000 and 3,000 feet at temperatures of about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. That's between 35.5 and 37.5 degrees Fahrenheit. These unique animals are completely different from other species and are regrettably considered to be endangered on account of the pollution and destruction of their habitats. So you could probably see why they're called vampire squid. They're black or red in color and have weird web skin that has the appearance of a vampire cape. And they also have some extremely spooky red eyes. But they don't change their body color or release ink when threatened like other squid do. They do eject a glowing, sticky mucus that acts in a similar way and confuses would-be predators. It doesn't seem as though they go around sucking blood, though, and they're not plagued by that pesky affliction of immortality. Number 16. Zombie worms. Zombie worms are a type of deep-sea creature that's known for its taste for bones. That's right, these weird wigglers are all about eating the bones of things, and they live deep below the surface and have been found at depths of 2,893 meters. This is where they can find the carcasses of dead whales whose bones they just love to devour. These worms will actually use their unique physiology to bore into the bone and reach the lipids that are inside. They feed on the collagen of the bones, and they make holes all throughout the skeletal structure and will also use those holes that they make to hide from potential predators that will also, as we've seen before, feed on the enormous carcass of a whale. They were first discovered back in 2002 in Monterey Bay, California, just a few hours south of San Francisco. The bone-eating worm uses acid to bore into the bones and extract out all of the nutrients along with the help of symbiotic bacteria in their root-like structures. Most bizarrely, though, they neither have mouths nor stomachs, but rather they rely entirely on this bacterial partnership for their survival. The female worms dominate the ecosystem, attaching themselves to bones and hosting harems of microscopic males within their tubes. The males exist purely to fertilize the eggs. This is a strategy which ensures the species thrives in deep-sea environments, and fossils would suggest that these worms have been around for millions of years, found to be feeding on marine reptiles like plesiosaurs during the age of dinosaurs. Number 15. Dragonfish. Although the dragonfish is only about 6 inches long, it still cuts a fearsome figure in the deep, dark ocean, especially if you're a teeny-weeny creature that the dragonfish loves to call lunch. These eel-shaped predators have extremely gruesome grins. Their fong-line jaws are one of the things that makes them a formidable hunter, as it allows them to eat prey almost half their own size. These nasty teeth and dead-eyed faces make the fish scary enough, but the thing that puts them into the category of nightmares is their powers of invisibility. I mean, seriously, these creatures have fangs that are almost totally transparent, which means that they blend into their surroundings and their potential prey can hardly see those nasty, big jaws as they clamp down on their heads. To add a decidedly spooky element to the dragonfish's already scary appearance, it also emits an eerie bioluminescent glow. Number 14. Snail fishes. Next up, we have a creature that also goes by the name impossible fish, and no, that does not refer to it being a vegan substitute like a burger or whatever. It's impossible because weirdly it seems to be able to live at depths where it should never be able to survive, let alone thrive. Until they encountered the snail fish. Scientists have been under the impression that the fish could not live below 8,200 meters. They thought it was simply physiologically impossible, but then some researchers from Japan and Australia discovered a snail fish living at 8,336 meters in a trench. And it broke all previous records that had been held by another snail fish in the Mariana Trench. These fish are crazy looking, but then again, they generally live in the dark where nothing else exists, so what do they care? Number 13. Barrel eye. Now, this fish does look super weird, and it seems that the deeper we look into the oceans of the world, the stranger the sea creatures become, and the barrel fish is one such oddity. Equipped for a starring role in a science fiction film, the barrel eye has a transparent dome-shaped head with extra sensitive tube-shaped eyes, which are covered by a green liquid-filled shield. Beautiful. It It helps the creature to spot prey above them, even if they're swimming in pitch-black darkness of the very deep oceans. They also have a pair of nostrils which look like sad eyes and a pointy snout with a small mouth. They have flat, elongated fins in order to move through the water by simply floating motionlessly, and their bodies contain a selection of luminous organs giving the fish an otherworldly glow. Now, while the fish is no oil painting, it's hard to argue that it isn't well adapted to its deep-sea habitat. The barrel eye has turned its disadvantage to its advantage. While other deep-sea dwellers have gone blind, this fish evolved its sight to navigate the dark, making it a super predator. Number 12, Blobfish. Oh, look at these guys. With a face like Mr. Magoo or a piece of rude graffiti, the poor old blobfish gets a whole bunch of abuse. Declared by some to be the ugliest animal in the world, the blobfish is kind of fascinating. Imagine being the scientist who first hauled up a blobfish. You'd think you discovered an alien life form, right? Their features can be eerily human, but usually in a comical way. Like a grumpy-faced, old cartoon grandpa rather than that of a spooky human face that you sometimes see other animals sporting. The blobfish has a big gelatinous head with huge lips and small eyes, and often a particularly displeased expression. You'd probably look a bit cross if people kept making jokes about your face as well. These unfortunate fish belong to a family of sea creatures, which is usually known by the more common name of fathead sculpins. These guys, well, they just can't catch a break. The blobfish is perfectly adapted to where it lives. Its gelatinous appearance is the result of having very few bones. Living at depths of 2,000 feet, the pressure down there would crush other types of bodies, so the blobfish's wobbly body doesn't seem so silly after all now, does it? Number 11. Black Sea Devil. Next up, we have a super creepy, deep-sea dweller called the Black Sea Devil. It sounds really friendly, I know. So then what's the problem? Well, have a look at the thing's teeth for starters. This fish has a gelatinous round body, which is mostly free from scales. They have a huge head and loads of very sharp, fang-like teeth. Some of them even have spines on their bodies, because they weren't scary enough looking to begin with. They're a type of anglerfish, meaning that they live in deep waters, mostly near the seafloor. So they are amongst those odd creatures that have their own source of luminescence that they use in the weird and fleshy thing that dangles out of the top of their head. This thing is their lure that they use to attract their prey, like an angler with a fishing line. You see, anglerfish are really efficient hunters, and not only have a whole bunch of extremely unpleasant sharp and pointy teeth, but they also have gargantuan mouths. And the anglerfish's massive mouth extends the entire circumference of their head, and it can be extended to such a colossal width that these scary sea dwellers can swallow prey that is twice their own size. Number 10. The Yeti Crab. This next creature is officially called the Kiwa hirsuta, which is an indication of the somewhat hairy appearance that it has, but unofficially the name Yeti Crab has stuck, and it is easy to see why. This hairy crustacean was discovered off the Pacific Antarctic ridge of the South Pacific Ocean. These crabs love to hang out in the very deep sea in hydrothermal vents. These vents are found near areas of volcanic activity in places where the tectonic plates are moving apart, and there are both white smokers and black smokers. The colors depend on the type of chemicals that are emitted by the particular hydrothermal vent. Although these phenomena spew out some fairly toxic stuff, they are also surprisingly adept at supporting an entire array of marine life. In fact, there is a school of thought in the scientific community that believes that all life on Earth may have originated from hydrothermal vents. There are believed to be similar things on the moon of Jupiter beneath its ice cover. So, then what does that mean? Well, you guessed it. It's aliens because it's always aliens. Number 9. The Scaly Foot Gastropod. Next up, I have another one of those weird creatures that just love to live in the spooky hydrothermal vents at the very deepest parts of the world's oceans. It is named for the iron sulfide scales that can be found covering the surface of its fleshy foot. And these scales give that snail awesome protection against predators and somehow allows it to exist in the intense physical stresses of its deep-sea habitat. The shell structure is also particularly extraordinary. It consists of an outer iron sulfate layer, a middle layer of organic material that absorbs shock, and a calcified inner layer. This multi-layer design has actually been behind the inspiration for researchers who are developing impact-resistant materials for use by humans on Earth. It seems that the iron sulfide composition is probably formulated from the snail's environment, living near hydrothermal vents that spew out mineral-rich fluids. The Gastropod adds these minerals into its own body defenses. There is no other animal that is known about that works in quite this way. Unfortunately, like many other of the incredible creatures on this planet, the scaly Gastropod is endangered. Apparently, the risks that it faces come from human behavior in the form of deep-sea mining. And even this deep below the surface of the ocean, geez, humans really are trashing the entire planet at this point now, aren't they? Number 8. The Gulper eel. The Gulper eel, which is also known as the pelican eel, is one of the most unusual and, quite frankly, most creepy animals that you may ever come across in the deep seas of our incredible planet. Isn't Gulper a fun word, though? Go on and say it. Gulper. You see, anyways, this Gulper eel looks sort of like a standard eel, a long body and not much else. And they're related to all the other sea-based eels, like the ugly old moray. These Gulpers are black in color and are not exactly gigantic. Not when they're compared to some of the other eel species anyways. And these guys are on average only between 2 and 3 feet in length. These sea creatures live in the deep ocean and can be found at depths from anywhere between 1,600 and 10,000 feet below the surface. But what actually makes them freaky and fascinating is their ginormous gulping mouth. But it doesn't just go around with a big, old, wide-open mouth all the time. The Gulper eel is able to expand its mouth like a big balloon so that it can swallow its prey. Afterwards, the eel deflates its mouth and then returns to its regular old eel-shaped body. These mysterious sea creatures are rarely seen, so not that much is actually known about them. That adds to the overall creep factor now, doesn't it? Number 7. Basket stars. These creatures are amongst the most mysterious and unusual in all of our seas, and that really is saying something. Basket stars are a species which are distinguished from other brittle stars by their extremely complex arms. Basket stars' arms repeatedly branch out and make a dense network that would be capable of spanning several feet if it were fully unfurled. This elaborate structure is not only for show, but also an ingenious feeding apparatus which allows the stars to sweep up loads of plankton and organic matter from the water. Once it's caught, the prey is then transported along grooves in the arms that are lined with tiny little feet to the mouth. It's kind of weird. They're also super good at curling themselves up really tight in order to get rid of any potential predators that might be bold enough to be hanging out in the extreme depths in which they live. Number 6. Leafy sea dragons. The leafy sea dragon is found in southern Australia's coastal waters. The thing is a master of camouflage, and it's not called leafy for nothing. Naturally, the leafy sea dragons are named for their elaborate leaf-like dangly bits which look uncannily like floating seaweed. This disguise will help them to evade predators in their native habitats of seagrass meadows and rocky reefs. And unlike their close relatives the seahorse, leafy sea dragons don't have a fancy tail, but instead they use drifting, swaying movements to mimic underwater vegetation. This will help them to blend right into their surroundings. Underneath all of this fluffy stuff, however, there's a kind of bony armor, and they're equipped with nearly transparent fins that are super difficult to detect, keeping them extra stealthy. They feed in a way that's basically like a vacuum cleaner. They have a pipe-like snout that sucks up all the teeny-weeny prey around them with a ruthless precision, and they have no teeth. And they don't even have a stomach, so they just basically have to eat a whole lot all the time in order to survive. Like seahorses, leafy sea dragon males are also very important in the birth and care of the young. These creatures are currently listed as near threatened by the IUCN, and they're the focus of several conservation initiatives within Australia. Number 5. The puffer fish. Puffer fish are the second most poisonous vertebrate on the planet. Even in second place, though, these fish each contain enough deadly tetrodotoxin to kill 30 humans. So I reckon second place is basically irrelevant. They're named the puffer fish for the weird way in which they protect themselves from would-be predators in the wild. They can puff themselves up to make it extremely difficult for a predator to keep a hold of them or to even sink their teeth in. In reality, this defense mechanism probably saves the predator's life as often as it does the fish's, because just one nibble could kill. Number 4. Coffin fish. Although it may sound like the kind of fish you would come across in the Addams Family's aquarium, it is not entirely as spooky as it sounds. Basically, all of the animals that live in the deeper parts of the ocean are subject to all of our more irrational fears and anxieties about the unknown. The deeper they dwell, the less we seem to know about them, and that is probably why we give many of them all of the most unflattering sorts of names. The poor old coffin fish is a case in point. Coffin fish are also known by another goth-sounding name, the sea toad. The deep-sea dwelling creatures are certainly rather strange-looking, but this is because they are brilliantly adapted to their living environment. Coffin fish have developed special fins which they use for walking on the seafloor. And they also have enormous gill chambers that inflate by expanding the animal's body with water, which apparently allows them to take up more oxygen. This adaptation may be one of the best for conserving their valuable energy in a food-scarce environment like their natural habitat. Number 3. The glass octopus. The glass octopus is a spooky and elusive creature that's found, that is, if you can see it, in tropical and subtropical waters worldwide. It's literally designed to vanish into its surroundings and evade predators. True to its name, the glass octopus is almost entirely transparent. In fact, its internal organs are the only visible structures. This translucence makes these octopuses more or less invisible in the deep sea and where light is scarce and predators rely on silhouettes to hunt. Unlike many of its cephalopod relatives, the glass octopus doesn't contain the stuff that allows other species to change color. Instead, it uses its invisibility as its greatest defense. These things are extremely hard to find, and that means that they're also super tricky to study. So much of what we do know about the glass octopus actually comes from rare glimpses that have been captured by deep-sea submersibles and trolling nets. Number 2. The box jellyfish. These wibbly-wobbly super stingers have long tentacles that are basically covered in a whole bunch of tiny poison-loaded darts. And if you pet one of these puppies, that death juice is likely as not going to be injected right into your bloodstream. And then I'm afraid you are as good as dead. Sunshine. The venom works quickly, but it's painful nonetheless. It causes paralysis, cardiac arrest, and often death within a few minutes of being stung. Luckily, out of over 50 species of jellyfish, only a few of those are actually deadly to humans. So that's a relief then, but still, even if you think they are cute, don't even think about touching them. It's like a beautiful but deadly femme fatale of the sea. Number 1. Cone snails. A slow-moving snail with carnivorous tendencies needs a ruthlessly efficient system to stop their prey from wandering off. And the cone snail has developed one of the deadliest and most effective poison delivery techniques on the planet. A venom that the cone snail uses can paralyze its prey almost instantly. And that is some scary stuff. The cone snail also has a very particular way to get the poison into its prey. They have a sort of harpoon-like tooth, which they fire out of the front of them. And this pokes into their victim and delivers the deadly, toxic cocktail. It's brutally efficient. There's actually no known antidote to the venom, so the only hope that you have if you do get stung is that you can be kept alive by machines and medical miracles until the toxins wear off. This is a bit of a risky business, really, so if it's a cone, leave it alone. Well, and there you have it, a glimpse into the beautifully bizarre world that thrives beneath the waves. From bioluminescent predators to bone-devouring worms, the ocean's imagination clearly knows no bounds. Now, which of these strange and spectacular beasts stole your heart? Or at least, sparked your curiosity? Dive into the comments below, and let's discuss these underwater oddities. If you're hungry for more deep-sea dives and explorations of the weird and wonderful corners of our planet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're constantly uncovering amazing stories, and you won't want to miss a single one. Don't forget to explore the other fascinating finds on screen. And until our next deep-sea adventure, keep wondering what else the ocean is hiding.